Hi, good morning. Can everyone hear me? Okay, is this better? Good morning, my name is Nick Martucci. Thank you, Ross, for that warm welcome. I thought we were going to have some intro music, but it's okay. Welcome to my panelists here. I have Madison with me from Extra Storage Space, Jamie from Extra Space Storage, Jamie from HP, Nate from Overstock, and Amy with Pinterest. And as Ross mentioned, we're going to be going through just talking a little bit about some of the testing that we've done with, of course, the great partners, a lot of whom are in the room, and just kind of touching on different tactics that you can hopefully go back to business with and implement. So I'll give everyone a minute to kind of introduce themselves, and after you kind of tell us, where you're from, what you do, how long you've been there, that whole spiel, if you could just quickly let us know which you prefer, whether it's Northern California or Southern California. This is kind of an ongoing debate throughout the conference.
Okay. My name is Madison Alkey. I'm from Extra Space Storage. We're headquartered in Salt Lake, so not too far from here. I've been with them for about 1.5 years, and I started out on the search team, and now I'm focusing a lot on display and our paid media. And then I've been to both, and I really enjoyed Northern when I was there. Kind of remind me a little bit of Idaho, where I'm from. So.
Hi, I'm Jamie Lieberman at HP in Palo Alto office in the Bay Area, so obviously Northern California would be my preference. I run our search marketing for the US online store, so focusing on direct sales of HP products. And I've been there a little over 2 years with 3 Black Fridays, so it feels like forever.
Nate Joe. I've been at Overstock going on 8 years. So running the paid search, shopping, and also our co-op with our vendor advertising as well, on-site and off-site. So just finished my 8th Black Friday, which was pretty brutal, but excited to be here and share some of these findings.
Awesome. My name is Amy Venner. I'm with Pinterest. I lead the retail vertical strategy. I have deep roots in Black Fridays and retail. I was at Walmart as a boomerang, first as a merchant for 4 years, and then back again leading customer acquisition for a short time, and currently work with retail brands to help take advantage of the consumers that are on Pinterest, and work with the product team to kind of create solutions that help brands reach out to them.
And Nate and Amy, your favorite part of California?
Oh, sorry. South.
So Pinterest is based in San Francisco, and I've lived there for 18 years, but I'm from Minneapolis, and I think similar to Idaho, I think there's this little vibe that goes out in Northern California that I appreciate, so I would pick North.
All right. So might be a little outnumbered here. I am a Southern California fan. Thank you, Nate, for a little bit of support there. Nick Martucci. I've been with Syzygy. We are a digital agency based out of New York. We're a global agency, actually headquartered in Germany, and I am the director of client engagement. So I work in business development, but I also work with our existing clients, developing long-term strategy to ensure that they're happy and they stay with the agency, and that we're bringing innovative ideas to their business. So I think Madison's going to kick it off first with a mini case study, and she'll take us through a few slides, which will be over here, and take it over, Madison.
Great. So I'm going to move over to the podium real fast.
Sure.
Actually, or I can sing it.
Do you mind if you could just
I don't mind.
sit there? Because the podium's kind of...
Okay, great.
on stage.
I'll stay here then. Okay, so I'm going to take you guys through 3 different themes on improving partnerships with your search partners. I'm going to start off with talking about some betas we participated in, and then I'm going to move over to relationship and communication, and then last I'll close with keeping each other accountable. So Extra Space has had the privilege to participate in quite a few betas. A couple of them this year have been the price extension beta, which was the expanded ads, and you'll see over on the slide that it shows those prices at the bottom. And then we were also in the call bid adjustment beta, both of which had great improvement in performance for us. I'm up here to tell you to participate in betas if you can. If you are asked to, do it. I know it takes a lot of more time and more work, but it is worth it. We found that the more betas we participate in, the more likely we'll be asked to be in them. And so that is my word of advice to you as far as betas go. As far as communication and relationships, we've all had that 3 o'clock call where we're just dreading it because it's awkward. You know there's going to be silences. Usually it only lasts about 10 minutes, but yeah, it's the worst part of your day, right? So I'm here to tell you that these are people too. So get to know your account managers. I'm sure there's something you have in common with them. So find those commonalities and just build that relationship, because it's a ripple effect. And if you build that relationship, you build trust, and then they're gonna really focus on your account and find the best optimizations for you, and it's really worth it to work on that relationship. Another thing that you've got to focus on is keeping your KPIs and goals clear with your account manager. There have been too many times where we run a campaign and by the end our goals are all over the place. So keep your goals really stood out the whole time and make sure your account manager knows them. Okay, wrapping it up with accountability. We found some tools and ways to help keep each other accountable as far as projects. So every beginning of our meeting, we have a meeting agenda and we write down what we want to cover, because I've had a few times where I jump off a call and I think, oh, I should have brought that up. Now I have to send an email. Now I have to schedule another call this week. So really, it's if you have this meeting agenda, it'll keep you guys on task. We use a project management software called Jira at Extra Space, and we give our account managers access to that so they can see what projects we're working on, what their tasks are, and it helps with keeping each other accountable. And then we go through projects and any roadblocks or challenges that we go through. So in wrap up really quick, just participate in betas and work on your relationship with your account manager and use tools to hold each other accountable.
Great. Thank you so much, Madison. And you touched on a few things. You know, one that stood out, and it's not news to anyone in the room, but testing and whatnot, and you know, going after some of these betas and whatnot, it takes time and effort, right? So, can you talk a little bit about from your team? You know, what are some of the processes around ownership around the test? Who's kind of vetting where it would be implemented? Who's owning it? Who's gonna, you know, connect all the dots when it comes to reporting at post-mortem, and just kind of touch on that process a bit?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we usually dedicate 1 or 2 people according to how big it is, but one person will handle writing the case study afterwards and being in contact with your account manager. It does take a lot of time, and those that have worked on it at Extra Space have spent, you know, lots of hours doing it, even after hours, trying to wrap up the betas. But yeah, so we usually dedicate 1 person to handle that, depending on whatever the beta is.
Okay, and then from a knowledge sharing point of view, whether it's a success or a failure, I mean, I'd imagine that there's learnings either way. What does that look like internally?
Yes, so we always have a wrap-up meeting, and usually we invite everyone that was involved in the beta and then some upper management to be able to show the performance and what happened with the betas. So there's always like a post-mortem meeting about it.
Very good. And then one other thing before we jump over to Jamie, the KPIs I feel like are a huge part, right? And so, you know, my experience being, I've had experience on the agency side for about 10 years, and I've also been on the vendor side, and it's interesting to see how different teams set up KPIs, and you know, whether it's channel specific or overall business goals. Can you tell me a little bit like how you guys go through that process in terms of setting KPIs, whether they're specific to the test, or are you trying to kind of hit benchmarks that you already have in place for existing campaigns?
Well, it depends on whatever the campaign is. If it's a brand new thing that we're testing, say a display campaign that we haven't done before, and we don't know the benchmarks, then we'll take like an overarching, okay, click-through rate, and then our our KPIs usually change throughout the campaign, so that's another thing to remember is they're going to change, so be flexible with that change, but make sure you know what the goal it has changed to.
Great, thank you so much. Jamie?
All right, so basically what Madison said. So, let's see. Okay, so as far as, yeah, I agree, basically participate in any beta you can. So what I'm going to go over is one of our big challenges and focuses right now is really attracting small business customers, so to our commercial products, higher ASPs, higher margins, higher lifetime value, so it's a really important segment that HP is focusing on. So with search, specifically, with targeting, right, it's easy to target people who look for our product names, or maybe some people will search for business laptop. Most people will search for laptop. And most of them are going to be consumers. So it's really difficult to identify the business customers who are more valuable to us. So we've worked really closely with our search partners, so both Google and Bing. Again, any beta we can do, if we hear about it, we'll send an email right away to get into it. The more we do that, they do come to us first with a lot of things that that haven't been announced yet. So as long as it's on strategy, we will try it. With our partners, just in general, it's really important to both our agency and our Googles and the Bings of the world. We need to just align on our KPIs and our strategy so they are very clear that we want to get more small business customers and we're going for ROAS. So it's very clear, we talk about it every meeting. Any beta they bring to us, we ask, how can we, for the small business segment, how can it apply to that specifically? Like, that's our number one priority. We discuss it and brainstorm in every meeting. We also, when we have at minimum quarterly business reviews with them, we don't really, with our agency reviews, that's where we dive into the data. So when we meet with the search engines, it's really even not about past performance, it's about trends, looking forward, competitive, and then the biggest thing we want to talk about is what's on the roadmap and how do we participate. So those are how we focus our engine conversations. So specifically with small business, what we focused on is audiences. So there's a lot of betas that everyone's brought. So our LSAs obviously have been done for a long time, but we still work with how can we refine it and just get more out of those. Customer match, so using our opt-in email list, so that was kind of a bigger one. It involves legal and privacy and LiveRamp. So working with other partners, so that's a big one, and testing and seeing how that does. That's a great one where we can decide if someone has bought small business products before and they search for laptop, I am comfortable serving them a business ad. So we've worked really hard testing that. Then rolling out similar audiences based on both our LSAs and our customer match. We've just started to test a little bit of YouTube retargeting, test then DSA, call-only ads, all of those kind of things. So anything that we can, any beta or new thing, we'll just test it. And one of the cool things that recently happened, because we do so much of this, with Google specifically, they bring in their experts. They did a full audience audit on all of our campaigns. So they said, of all the campaigns, are we missing out on anything? Can we add anything? Their recommended bid adjustments, which you have to take with a grain of salt because they obviously want them as high as possible, but it did, let us know where we had some opportunities to test, especially during the holidays, and then how we could just, optimize off of that. So as a result, met our goals, increase spend. I mean, we'd like to be able to actually spend more on that, but we did increase it. But the ROAS went up even more, so we did get a lot more revenue out of those folks that we were able to target. So our search partners were invaluable, just as valuable as our agency partners.
Great, thanks so much. And kind of sticking to the theme of the panel, right? Getting more from your partners. Are there any integrations that you would, you feel are missing, or that you have a wish list for in terms of, some of the partners are in the room, so
yeah,
now's the time to.
To Bing, I really want to be able to LinkedIn. that I'm really excited about. So let us know. We're first.
Is anyone from Bing in the crowd? Yeah. How are we coming along?
Sign
with
us
that?
up.
How are we coming along with that LinkedIn integration for Jamie? Can we bump that up on the priority list? All right. We're going to hold you to that. Morgan, get their names. Thank you. All right, next up is Nate from Overstock, and I think, Nate, you're just going to kind of talk over a few of the examples that you've gone through, right?
Yeah, we at Overstock, we definitely love to test, love to be in as many betas as we can and alphas. One that was published recently, end of October, was the showcase ads through Google. So they presented the value of showcase ads, and PLA is a big business for Overstock. But the issue we run into is, someone's going to, similar to HP, someone's going to type laptop. Well, someone's going to type rug. Like, we have 100,000 plus rugs. Which one do we show them? So showcase ads kind of filled that need of, it's not very specific, they don't have a size, they don't have a color, material. So we're going to show them beautiful rooms that are filled with Overstock rugs to help get that inspiration going. What was great about the showcase ads beta there is, they were able to pull data on their end that showed a 3x increase of brand search after engaging with showcase. And so that's data that we don't necessarily have access to with those betas because if someone's clicking on a showcase ad, they're not necessarily coming to our site, so we can't pixel them necessarily, but they know who's engaged and then can track them back to the brand. And so that was an interesting test. After the conclusion of that test and that brand study, that brought up additional betas and alphas where we were like, well, if we're going to pay for an engagement on a showcase ad, I want that audience. I'm paying for that person. So we were working with them on tagless remarketing for engagements there, and that's a new alpha that we're testing with them. So things like that, being good partners, having that insight of the data that they can bring, and just those future questions of, how can we make this bigger than what it is currently. Another one that we've been working on recently is with Pinterest. And, it's interesting because with Overstock, we are a home retailer. Our products are mainly home decor, area rugs, furniture. But people have to be inspired. They have a mission that they're trying to accomplish. And so, Google is great, Bing is great, once someone knows what they want. But how do you get in front of someone who doesn't know what they want yet? And so that's why we've been engaging with Pinterest, working with them to expand our footprint there, and also the products, working with them on the data and the APIs and things that we can create together that are unique. And that's what's really interesting about betas is, I know certain data points that I can get from other partners. Those are the things you want to ask when you're creating a new relationship of, this is the data I want. Do you have it? How can I get it from you programmatically? What types of campaigns can we build out together? What kind of experiences can we create from one platform to the next that is going to be seamless? We don't want to break, a pattern of someone is familiar with, let's say, Pinterest and how they show search results or any type of inspiration, and then come to our site and it's totally broken experience compared to what they were looking at. So how do we create that link through APIs and through different experiences to make that more seamless? So I think the next part though is important for a lot of performance marketers is how do you judge the performance of it? It's brand new. I have a scorecard that comes out every hour. It goes to upper management. It says exactly how much I sold every day of the year. So I have that, and I have a daily scorecard that said, okay, yesterday, this is how much we sold. So there's a lot of visibility into our ad spend dollars. And when we're starting a new relationship, I don't know if that's necessarily going to fit into that scorecard. Because Pinterest was an upper funnel type of experience, people weren't ready to buy in the next week. Maybe it was 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So you have to create those proxies when you're testing a new alpha, new beta, new partnership that help give you that lens into that future performance. If you're going to look at a 7-day post-click or post-view, how does that look in 30 days? And it's important to create those incremental tests. And Pinterest has been really good about that. Creating those holdouts so that you know exactly what your ad spend dollars are providing in addition to what you would have got originally. And then creating those proxies off of that so you can make business decisions. Because how hard is it to spend all this money the first week and you don't see any sales? You just want to shut it off. But if you know that the true value is someone who is starting that journey of redecorating their room or buying a new house or a nursery or whatever it is, whatever mission they have, that maybe they're not ready for 3 weeks. So you have to create that interest and track that audience over that time period, and definitely don't get discouraged in the first week or two. So.
Yeah, no, I think just to add a couple points to what Nate was sharing, from a Pinterest perspective, we're not your traditional search engine. Yes, consumers come to Pinterest to shop, but the mindset of the user and how they think about what they're doing, 97% of the searches that consumers do don't have a brand term in them. It's more like dining room table ideas, entryway, rug ideas. It's before they landed on and decided who it was that they want to buy from. Inserting your brand at that moment becomes much more influential and incremental than driving sales where someone may have already made up their mind and maybe you wouldn't even have needed to pay for that consumer. So on Pinterest, that mindset and that planning aspect, so you're having a consumer who's taking the next 3 weeks to plan out what they want their nursery to look like. You want your brand, your products to show up in front of them at those critical moments. That's before they decided they're going to do a Google search for that exact same thing that they learned they wanted. And it's also before they actually posted that image on Facebook and shared it with their friends and family and look at my new nursery. It's the opportunity to influence them at the critical moment when they're deciding and they're open-minded. And just in terms of measurement, the other point I wanted to make on that is, multi-touch attribution is becoming much more commonplace. Thinking about things from a different lens than last click, same day, same session, 7-day attribution models. Our industry hasn't fully evolved to that, but when we look at certain partners like Newstar, or when you look at order ID analysis, different things where you can kind of go upstream and understand what path the consumer took to get to that purchase, what were the critical points there. We find that there's a lot of value in driving incrementality and average order value when you're evaluating your campaigns that way.
Great, thanks so much, Nate and Amy. And just to kind of build on what you were saying, with respect to incrementality, with respect to Pinterest, you mentioned kind of having that as the opportunity. Was that the lead-in terms of testing the channel? Was it an incrementality-driven test, or was it to go more upper funnel, as you mentioned?
Yeah, I think it definitely was. We started off with incrementality. So we were looking at our consumer, where she is, where she shops, how she engages with her inspiration, and Pinterest was a natural fit with that. And so incrementality was key at the beginning, and we'd been working with Pinterest for a long time, but it was really pushing to get these products live for us to test incrementality that really expanded the relationship and us being able to feel comfortable with putting significant dollars there.
Got it. Yeah. And then Amy, so on your side with in terms of talking to other brands outside of just Overstock, do you see a lot of brands coming to you for incrementality, or is it the upper funnel? I need ideas. I need to find someone and perhaps persuade them or motivate them to build or create something in a specific way that like a Home Goods or Michaels may be able to kind of interject themselves.
Yeah, no, that's right. It started in terms of like the kinds of relationships that Pinterest had. It's like kind of saying Facebook is just for college students. Maybe that's where Facebook started in terms of how they reached out to their community and built the platform. But today it's a whole different thing. And I would say early on, the stereotype of someone planning their wedding, someone making arts and crafts projects with Michaels. I mean, all those things are very real, from everyday moments to big life moments. But the way consumers on Pinterest are using the platform today, it's all kinds of ideas. Home is a big one. Holiday planning is a big one. Planning food. What are you going to put in your child's lunchbox? So we're talking to brands across retail, CPG. There's also automotive, financial services to fuel some of these bigger purchases. So there's a lot of, I think incrementality is our starting point. But as we all know in marketing these days, a couple other buzzwords and things that are happening that create some excitement is around the visual search technology and being able to get, to someone who can say, I know it when I see it, not necessarily the words for it. There's an average of 60 pins that people see per search result. So there's a lot of scrolling, a lot of idea generating that people are visually using. And some of our visual discovery technology is now why people are leaning in. Target has a partnership with us using our visual discovery technology in their Cartwheel app for Lens. And then the other piece is just personalization. We've talked about personalizations in my 18-year career in digital marketing and one-to-one marketing and all these buzzwords, but honestly, I think the consumer's less skeptical about why someone knows this about me, because it's helpful, and we're getting smarter as marketers about the right intent signals that are being used to then make it more relevant and easy for them to say, that's out of all the things you could put in front of me, out of all the rugs, because of my personal taste and aesthetic, you put that rug in front of me. That, in addition to just being at the right time in my planning cycle, leads to a much higher likelihood of me making that purchase from you. So, personalization, visual discovery technology, and incrementality.
Yeah, very good. Thank you so much. Just thinking about some of the conversations we've been having and what's been discussed with respect to the partnerships. We've touched on a few of the folks that we work with, but would you say that there's something, and we can kind of go down the line if you'd like, is there anything that's glaring, that's missing from partnerships, or that often is a common challenge that you have to get over? Perhaps it could be perhaps with like introducing a new partner, and like maybe it's selling it internally or whatnot.
Let me think on that for just a second.
Sure.
Yeah, I think sometimes there could be a disconnect between if you're not really clear like the goals or the size of your budgets or the ability to grow your budgets and capture the entire market, and just kind of obviously our partners want us to spend as much as we can on their platforms, and we need to be profitable, or we have other considerations. It's a big company, we have retailer partners, and we can't step on certain toes, so sometimes there's like internal reasons we can't do things. But for the most part, as long as you're clear, I think we generally move in lockstep.
Yeah, I can speak to that too, is the communication. You've got to be clear with them, and making sure that they come to the right person to make the change. Sometimes like a problem can be blown out of proportion if they don't go to the right person. And so as long as you keep that clear, like I'm the one that can change that, I can fix that at this level, then make sure that they come to you.
Okay, so just kind of understanding the structure and whose roles and responsibilities internally?
Yep.
Okay, very good. Nate, how about you?
Yeah, I think a key is empowering your teams. And so if any of my managers or directors want to do a test, I'm going to empower them to do that. Now, if it is a significant partnership, we will have upper management, join in on a few initial conversations with counterparts at those companies, just to make sure that we're on the same page of what we're trying to accomplish. But after that point, it really is a ownership of the team to manage it at that point, and they own their channels. So it's really that empowerment that allows these tests to keep going and to flourish.
And I would add learning agendas. I think Overstock has been very smart, and it's not commonplace in terms of putting together a learning agenda that isn't just about the first time you look at the stats. It's actually, we want to learn this in phase 1, we want to learn this in phase 2, we want to learn this in phase 3, and be really thoughtful about the approach for how you quantify success or failure. And when you get a very clear idea of what that agenda is, you can do all kinds of things that test against it and allow you to get smarter and improve sort of your performance along the way.
Great. Ross, real quick, how are we doing on time?
We can go to questions.
No, I just, how many minutes we got?
Well, technically you have like about 10. But
Okay, no problem. Yeah, so just kind of expanding, right? We've focused a lot on the kind of search 101, if you will. I mean, Pinterest, is somewhat new to the space, but throughout the conference, we've heard from folks speaking about a lot of AI technology and voice search, and Aaron was speaking about geofencing. Like, what are some of the things outside of your traditional search tests that you've considered, or in terms of innovation, right? Like, how are you ensuring that your search programs are really staying ahead, and perhaps not just with your competitors, but looking outside to other industries to try to take learnings in?
We try to innovate. So in the storage space, it's pretty simple. You get a storage unit, you go put your stuff in, right? But there are companies that do valet storage and all that kind of stuff. We've looked into that. We're looking into what's next with an app on your phone that can open your unit. We just want to stay ahead and make it easy for the customer, and that's where it all comes back. Is we've heard it a lot at the conference, is customer experience, like customer journey. Put your mind in the customer and whatever makes it easier for them. So as far as innovation, I mean, any kind of technology, whether it's on your phone or whatever, is going to help your business, and you can apply it to that.
I mean, some things we look at as a both a manufacturer and a direct seller. We have to be careful of not competing with our channel, which makes it harder to, like on mobile, to take advantage of a lot of things. So we have been able to work and test like affiliate location extensions. It just requires a little trickier, like internal, like funding sources, because my funding is supposed to go towards buying a store, whereas you can partner with other parts of HP, and then they can fund part of it so that we all increase at the same time. So trying to figure out how we can play a little more in that space by helping the entire company. Yes, some of them, like say both like mobile and then voice coming up, it's a little more complicated, say with our computers that you need to configure, and that's just not something you're going to do on voice, and it's really complicated on mobile. But there are things like buying ink, right? You have a printer, I know I need, ink number XYZ. And so figuring out how on some of our simpler products we can start testing and making inroads on, like mobile, which isn't new, but, voice I could see, coming up soon.
Yeah, the connectivity with the printers, where it automatically sends you the ink cartridges. I set that up for my parents. I think that's genius. It's always you never know you need ink until you go to print something and you're actually in a massive hurry, and you actually then realize I need ink. So
everyone should do that.
Morgan, can we get Jamie some more funding? She's trying to help the company grow, please. You're out here skiing all afternoon. She's working.
You know, as far as Overstock goes, you know, we've spent a lot of this last year building out our, you know, data science teams, looking at our customer pathing, you know, those touch points of the customer, what really is making a difference. And then some of the interesting things that we've, you know, launched this last year is our augmented reality on our app. And, you know, I think that's going to be a more and more commonplace going forward, especially in the home, where people, you know, right now we have, I think, 10,000 products in our augmented reality where, you know, you can see the couch in your room, or you can see the rug on your floor, walk around it, see how it looks from all the different angles. That type of experience is where I feel like a lot of the online retail is going to go, just because it does personalize it to the person, and they can feel more comfortable with those bigger purchases. No one wants to buy a couch and then hope they don't want to return it. So it helps with the barrier of the purchase, but also allows our consumers to have a reason to come back and to continue to look at our product.
I'm a little old school, might be my gray hair, but from a retail perspective, excuse me, I'm getting over a little bit of a cold. I think merchandising is the most innovative thing you can do by bringing the qualities of the merchandising that you know is the mix of art and science, bringing that to digital so that you evoke emotion and inspiration. And the way to do that through sort of innovative things is what everyone's been talking about, including the right way to use visual discovery technology to help bring depth and dimensions, kind of like Spotify does for music, helps you know what you like and do more of that. Do that with products and shopping, more of what you like, so what you experience is much more relevant and interesting and emotionally connecting, because price becomes less important when you're emotionally connected to a look, an idea, a living room. All of a sudden, price is just a little bit less important. And that's the 101s of, you know, merchandising.
Great. Yeah, and I think one last thing before we wrap for questions. You know, Madison touched on this a bit, you know, speaking with respect to the account managers, right? She said they're people. And, you know, all of us in this room, we are people, and some of us sell, and some of us are the buyers on the brand side. And, you know, there are great partners out there. And sometimes you know, this is my personal opinion, you know, I work and have experience with great partners. You know, Chris Lehman at Ed Marketplace. I mean, these guys, David Jarvis at Yahoo, I see up there. David, what's up, man? He was shooting yesterday. This guy's a sharpshooter. Look out for him. But, excuse me, you know, sometimes your team, and it all depends, and that's why I was asking about the process, like who's vetting the partners, right? If you have your junior level staff in these meetings, they may not understand the value prop in that first meeting, but then they'll automatically dismiss it, or, you know, in some cases maybe they don't like the lunch that they brought or something. But, you know, on a serious note, it takes time to really start to understand some of the value props. I mean, everybody is unique in their own respect. There is, I think everyone would agree, there is some overlap in the industry in terms of what some of the partners do. But, you know, to be successful in business and to have a company that has clients, you know, you need to have some kind of value prop. And so I would encourage, you know, the brands and the agencies out there to try to take those meetings and to, if you can, have the senior leadership or, you know, the people that have experience kind of running different A/B tests or just testing in general to be part of that vetting process. Because, again, you're not going to necessarily get it right off the bat after that first meeting. And for a lot of the folks in this room, it takes a lot to get that first meeting, and it takes a lot more to get the second. And so I don't know if, you know, you guys want to add anything to that, or if you maybe you disagree, but.
No, I would say that it's always after like the first physical meeting with your account manager, everything changes after that. They're not just a voice on the phone, they're not just an email. Like now you see them, they're a person, and you can connect better.
And I think a lot of it is just having that attitude that I want to test new things, because we're I feel like our campaigns do really well, but we're expected to increase in efficiency every year, which gets harder and harder. So you do need these small incremental things, and you can only get that by testing either new betas or new partners or new technologies. So we're generally willing to listen to just about anyone to see if it's a good fit. Also, the benefit of we use a large agency, and so we definitely rely on them to talk to their counterparts. Because the best thing, if it's especially if it's something that maybe that's a pretty big implementation, if they can say, hey, we've talked to other account directors and client, these 3 clients had really good success, so we feel a little more confident putting in that time. But I think the biggest thing is just look to test in general.
Yeah, and just one thing, Nate. You were saying, the evolution there, the technologies are, getting better and whatnot. That's another thing that is kind of like a stigma, right? Like, you could run a test with a partner in 2012, but they're still in business in 2017. Like, they must be evolving in some respect. So, take some of those meetings, right? To not only get I'm sure there's turnover within the organizations, right? So not only to introduce the partners to new staff, right? But to kind of see, okay, what is new? Like, how have you made it this far? Because when we ran the test years ago, it maybe didn't do so well. So why should I even, reconsider and try to listen to those new value props?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I've run a series of successful and unsuccessful tests, and so, but there's a few in here that I've known for several years, my whole tenure at Overstock, and it's always good to see where people end up. They're not always going to be at the same company, so creating good relationships there, so that you are top of mind when something new is coming to market, to where they're going to reach out to you as well. So relationships are definitely key to that.
Great. Russ, should we go to Q&A?
Yeah, we can go to Q&A. We can go to comments too. Nick had a great comment up there. I don't know if anyone has anything to add from the floor here. No, because we're just about on time, so I think we can wrap. So Nick, panel, thank you guys
very much.
Great information.